if you're trying to build your project by clicking homework 1 or whatever the name of your project is and clean and build, for example, and I'll go ahead and I'll show my output window. So here it prints that the build was successful, but if you are getting some error messages, then it could be perhaps because you have some syntax errors in your code. For instance, maybe you forgot to add a semicolon somewhere, or maybe you somehow inserted a space in the name of your class. The name of the class cannot have spaces, right? So, for example, if we try something like this, and I save by pressing Ctrl S, or you can just say file save, and I go back to clean and build. This time this output window opens automatically, and you're getting some sort of error message that normally if you have the whole list of error messages, you should be able to click on the first one. Just scroll all the way up, find the first error message, and this is a link to a place in the program, as you can see, where this error has originated. So obviously I inserted this the space, and my error message says that it was expecting an opening bracket like this. So just be careful not to make these types of mistakes. Okay, so let's rebuild this program one more time. This time I'm assuming it builds fine, and when I run it again, you see that this time it's printing 4 of these messages. Now let's walk through the syntax and structure of this program by opening our handout for today. And actually I will open a presentation version of it by jumping to our reading materials, and this is the first presentation that I'd like to open. Alright, so we spoke very briefly already about topics about Java and NetBeans, but this set of slides will give us a little bit more information about these things. So here I'll just resize this picture. This is an interesting slide where we have a bit of history of programming languages, and you see that we have some dates or years here going back to 1954, and you see that Java was actually derived from, its syntax was primarily derived from C++, but many ideas about Java object-oriented features and the way everything is organized as a working system is inherited from Smalltalk, which dates back to 1972. And C++, of course, was invented at around 1985. And also Java gave many ideas to creators of C#, which is a Microsoft .NET technology or programming language, which is very similar to Java. Java was developed by Sun Microsystems. Its platform is object-oriented, which allows us to use classes of objects, create objects in computer memory, and have these objects interact with each other. Its intention is to be a general-purpose programming language, which can be used in a wide variety of areas, ranging from scientific applications, controlling embedded systems in different devices, video gaming, and other areas, including finance, healthcare, banking, and all of this. Its promise is that it's architecturally neutral. So if a computer has a Java virtual machine running, which is pretty much like an hypothetical computer. It's a managed environment which provides executable environment for Java programs. So once again, if a computer has Java virtual machine available and it has a correct version of that virtual machine, Java programs will just continue to execute in that environment just fine, whether they were built on the same machine or elsewhere. So the Java virtual machine and the Java runtime environment has to be present on the computer in order to be able to run Java programs. Java source code, just like we had in our sample project right here, is a set of files which we normally include under the structure of our project here in one of the packages, and our source file is actually named homework1.java. So these files will contain some data definitions like members of our classes and programming statements written in Java. So these are examples of programming statements written by us today to print these messages. So of course Java is an object-oriented programming language, so even the smallest program like we had originally with just one statement that prints this text on computer screen requires so much more programming code written to be able to properly compile and execute. Popular Java IDEs are NetBeans and Eclipse. Some others also exist, and so we're using NetBeans in this semester. So integrated development environments such as NetBeans allows you to manage projects, and project management actually begins outside of NetBeans, as I recommended to you to create at least once a well-located subfolder. I tend to keep these directories very short, which allows me to see even shorter error messages if I get some sort of error condition. And then under this common umbrella you can create your projects. You see that it's flexible where you want to keep your projects. NetBeans typically remembers this location. But this is where the project management actually begins, somewhere in the folder that you want to know its location and remember it and use it. So integrated development environment such as NetBeans allows us to manage these projects. Of course, we can edit the code, we can test and run our application, and we also can run it in debug mode, which will allow us to stop during the execution of the program, examine various variables and values, and allow us to understand certain errors or logical problems that our program may have. Normally, the debugging involves problems that go beyond simple syntax errors. So if you have a syntax error, incorrect source, then compiler will, during the build, Java compiler will give you an error message and you'll have to fix it. Alright, so every Java file is saved in a file with extension .java. I very highly recommend that in your file manager that you're using on your system, that you find a way to display file name extensions. In my case, if I click on view and check this, it displays file name extensions. Oftentimes you have to be able to navigate to your files, like this is the actual Java file that I'm running today, part of my project, and you see that I have extension .java. If I turn this file name extension off, in my case Java extension is not attached to any specific application in this configuration. But if I go back to, for instance, the project level, you see that these are some files like a build file, which is an XML document. This file manager begins to, or Windows Explorer, or Windows File Explorer to be exact, hides the extension. I really don't like this, and I like to see the names, file names with extensions, so I'm just going back to display extensions, and now it shows that this is an XML file.